I'll just categorically say this. There is nothing in American national security interest that validates doing this. It is illegal. I don't care what they're saying. It's self-evident. The Constitution is clear, and we're not even being told what the intelligence is. We are told, just trust me, we know all the details here, but we're not sharing any of them with you.
Colonel, while I've got you, I mean, it's a slightly different topic, but I know we had a long discussion last week about what is going on in Latin America. You were cautioning the Pentagon and the White House against further involvement. Donald Trump is making some noises tonight that we could see some land action in Venezuela tonight. The air defences in Caracas are on high alert for sure. All sorts of mysterious activity going on over the Caribbean tonight. Can I get your response to that and anything you're hearing?
Huge problem, huge mistake. I mean, I actually had on my show earlier just today, I talked about how 14% of the U.S. Navy fleet has gone in there into the region. We've accelerated our amount of air power, sea power, troops that are in the ground, Marines, etc. There is nothing good to get here. Whatever they're saying about this is about, keeping drugs out of America, that's BS. I'm sorry, just going to call that straight out. It's not. Venezuela is like number 20th on the list, and if you're bypassing everybody above, then that's not your reason. The fact that you've allowed the CIA to go in there and to conduct operations on the ground, and now apparently we're talking even more so. It's supposed to be against the U.S. law and against the U.S. Constitution for the President of the United States, any man, whoever's holding that job, to take the U.S. forces into lethal combat operations against another country. He's already done it with Iran. Nobody said anything about it. And now then you keep doing it. And now then it looks like he's using it as a plaything for something else. There is nothing. I'll just categorically say this. There is nothing in American national security interest that validates doing this and going into military conflict in this country, in Venezuela or Colombia, if he thinks he's going to go there later. All we're doing is stirring up a hornet's nest. And I'm telling you, if you think you're going against the cartels, picking a fight with the cartels has not worked well for other governments in the region, and we're not impervious to that either. Don't pick a fight we can't win, and don't start a fight that we shouldn't even engage in. I pray to God that it doesn't happen, but as you say, there's a risk of that.
But I mean, these extraordinary images we're seeing in the last few days, submarines, these aren't fishing boats that are getting caught up in this. It's like actual submarines being used to shift over drugs. We've had senators and Congress people on this show, throughout the last week, all saying that they believe there is a legal basis for what the president is doing, what the commander-in-chief is doing, and they've been briefed privately about the security threat. But it is your understanding that this remains illegal conflict?
It is illegal. I don't care what they're saying. It's self-evident. The Constitution is clear. The 1973 War Powers is clear. There is no legal justification. Even when you want to say that there has been in the past, there's been a UNSC resolution, something that authorizes international lethal operations, and there is nothing like that. And we're not even being told what the intelligence is. We are told, just trust me, we know all the details here, but we're not sharing any of them with you. If you're going to take America into war, and especially if you're talking about the government and the military of Venezuela, not just some drug boat, but the country, that requires a categorical, that requires a declaration of war or an authorization by the Congress, neither of which is even on the table right now. So I would sternly disagree with anybody who says that. And again, there is no security issues that would require the use of force, which leaves us all to wonder, what is this really about? And I don't have an answer for that one.
Colonel, thank you for joining us tonight. Final thought from Will Geddes, if he's still with us, I believe he is. Will, with the greatest respect to our American friends, they don't have the best track record when it comes to intervening in South America. Do you share the Colonel's concerns there that, Trump is possibly biting off more than he can chew?
Yes, I'd completely agree with the Lieutenant Colonel. British Special Forces have operated down in the region extensively with the counter-narco teams, members of both the SAS and the SBS. They've been very successful in a support capacity. For there to be a direct action by either US forces or UK forces, for that matter, as an ally, I think, again, could be biting off more than could be chewed. I think we would end up in possibly, and I mean, this may be a terrible analogy, but almost like an Afghanistan conflict. It needs to be directed mainly by intelligence and special forces in a very precision striking type of operation if they want to take out some of the channeling of drugs. But like the Lieutenant Colonel said, they are only one entity on the list of those that are involved in importing drugs, not only into the United States, but elsewhere.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Both repeat guests on Harry Cole Saves the West, and come back and see us again soon. Lots to chew over there with Rebekah from The Blaze. Rebekah, I mean, let's go back. Let's just rewind. We're going to come to Venezuela, and we're going to come to drugs, and we're going to come to bombings and fishing boats and submarines in a sec. But let's go back to the spying. Every time this sort of blows up, we get more stories, and as our guest was saying there, you know, it's clearly well known what everyone's up to, from the Chinese to the Iranians to the Russians. Why do politicians always act like there's some great surprise to this? And, you know, are they slightly are they in denial, or are they just taking us for mugs?
I do think it is a bit rich to pretend like, you know, this wasn't on anybody's radar.
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok comes to mind. As an avid user of TikTok, I'm not going to pretend to be all high and mighty over here.
Yeah.
But that one was a pretty obvious one. And even that, I mean, that's still kind of an ongoing conversation. The fact that there is such a grave national security threat, and it's been there since 2019 or whenever the app was founded. The fact that it's taken so long to actually do anything about it, I think, is really telling. I think a lot of it, honestly, is just true Washington fashion. They're just kind of dragging their feet to actually accomplish anything.
Is it that no one kind of wants to, admit how bad it is? Is it, or are they being deliberately deceptive, or are actually they just being foolish?
I think I don't think I would say it's deliberate deception. I think it's more so I think there's an embarrassing element about being the greatest country, well, no offense, on the planet. And that's an argument we can have another day. But being one of the greatest countries in the world and still, having soft spots and still being vulnerable, I think that's a component. But I also think that it's just good old-fashioned bureaucracy in a lot of cases.
Let's talk about Venezuela, which is obviously, I mean, we don't quite know what's going on. There is all sorts of activity above the Caribbean tonight. Could be a dress rehearsal, could be a strike on Venezuela. The air defences are up, and as I said, in Caracas. Let's talk about the politics of this. The legal argument we've had with the Colonel there. How's the politics of this? Is this a president that's overstepping the mark? Does he have the right as the commander-in-chief to do what the hell he wants? And as the self-proclaimed president of peace, how wise is it, and how much support would he have from his own side in engaging in a potentially Afghan-like conflict, as Will Geddes said there in South America?
I think that's what people are really weary about, is that when I say we, I don't just mean Republicans or Trump voters. I think Americans in general are extremely weary and cautious when they see the state sort of start to meddle in foreign affairs. I think we saw a lot of the similar critiques emerge earlier in the summer when President Trump struck Iran. Everyone was kind of...
It worked though, right? I mean,
absolutely. No, and
short, sharp shock, no more nukes.
No doubt there. But there was that fear that it was going to pull us into something that we just couldn't get out of. And so, although there is obviously this ongoing legal conversation with the Rand Paul fans, and then of course the more MAGA types, I do think that there is a tension there. There's a fear that we're going to get caught up in something that we just can't get out of. And so I think he should be cautious, but we also saw him pull off the Iran strike.
How popular is it, though? I mean, obviously, the drugs, parents, voters, Americans, deeply concerned about the drugs flowing into America through the southern border. This strikes me as something that could be quite, electorally, quite popular, right?
I don't think it's, I think it's popular to actually
try and do something. I think someone's doing something about it. Right?
Exactly. I don't think it's necessarily unpopular to try and do something about the cartels. I think the fear is, again, getting entangled with a foreign country, and I think also the severity of striking cartels, or they are cartels. I think some people are trying to say they're fishermen.
You don't normally see fishermen in submarines.
I'm not an outdoorsman, but I have not heard of that fishing technique before. But again, I do think that there's some caution there that should actually be paid attention to.
And we talk about the sort of electoral coalition, but within the White House, within the government, how much unity is on this? Because obviously J.D. Vance, Vice President, let it be known, he had his issues over striking on Iran. He was desperate to. He's very, very sort of well known as sort of the more isolationist wing of this administration. Is it all harmony behind the scenes? Is it? Does Trump have the support of his closest colleagues on this?
It seems like he does. I mean, at least publicly, there have been times where, like people like Senator Rand Paul have come out and heavily criticized the president. And
I mean, he does that a lot
that's
anyway,
kind of his
right?
thing. That's sort of what he's
He
known
was the only
for.
senator not invited to the barbecue,
And, you know,
wasn't
that
he?
wasn't the first time that happened. And I'm starting to think that he's just okay with that. He's made peace with that. But, you know, as you mentioned, some of Trump's closest allies in the administration have always come to his defense. And so at least we can at the very least say that outwardly, J.D. Vance seems to be sort of a moderator, a mediating force between the isolationists and people who might be
And
more
the president would argue that protecting American children and young people and well, citizens from drugs is America first. You know, America first doesn't mean America, you know, completely isolated. It means putting American interests first. Do you think he's making that argument well enough in 10 seconds?
I think,
no pressure.
I think he's doing it the best that he can, and
Okay.
we'll have to see how it transpires over the next few weeks.